Hey folks, this is Kelani. It seems as though most people have their heart set on a South Seas expansion, and I would be lying if I said I didn't think that's what's in store for us this weekend. But no matter where we end up or what adventures we're sent on, what bad guys we kill or who we make friends with, there's something I'm more interested in: the features at the heart of the next expansion. It doesn't matter if we end up at the bottom of the sea or if we head out into space, the core features are what really excites me the most. So let's have a look at what features I'd love to see announced with the new expansion. Reputations have always been at the heart of World of Warcraft content. They restrict and limit us when we first meet a new faction, but after we break those revered and exalted boundaries, we're usually well rewarded. A problem I have with the current reputation system is that quite a few of those rewards are tied to your character, as opposed to being tied to your account. That means when you hop onto a different character, suddenly you're back in a certain faction's bad books simply because you haven't gone through their quests yet on that specific character. That can be quite frustrating when the high reputation rewards are quality of life improvements or something related to convenience. A great example of this would be the upgraded flight whistle. For the first few weeks of our adventures on Argus, the upgraded flight whistle, which allowed you to teleport to the Argus flight path nodes, was locked to only the character you had reached revered with and purchased the flight whistle upgrade on. This is the type of upgrade that makes sense to be account-wide rather than character-specific, and the dev team agreed. The whistle was changed shortly after a Q&A which brought the issue to light. I feel like this is more of an issue with reputations as a whole. Back in Mist of Pandaria, whenever you reached Exalted with a faction, you could purchase a token which could be sent to your alts. When used, that token would increase the reputation you gained with that faction significantly, thereby allowing you to catch up on your alts much faster. We already went through the grind once, so every time after that it was made much easier. That catch-up has completely disappeared, and I'm not too sure why. It makes perfect sense to give your alts a bit of a leg up if it's something your main has already completely done. I've seen a few other suggestions to make reputation entirely account-wide and just cut out the middleman, but I'm not too sure the dev team would go that far. I think the catch-up token system is a really good middle ground and would love to see the dev team re-implement it in one form or another, just to make reputations a little more alt-friendly. It seems like a day can't go by without someone mentioning sub-races, but I believe there's a good reason for that. Adding in more choices when you create your character can only add value to the experience that is World of Warcraft. Maybe not everyone wants to be a super squeaky clean Dunmarrow dwarf. Maybe the grey ashen look really suits some folks. It's not entirely necessary to create an entire new system to allow sub-races either. Plenty of available sub-races could be implemented by just increasing the number of customization options available to us during character creation. More choices of skin colours, eye colours, hairstyles, pretty much anything that's already there. Just give us a few more options, preferably a wider variety of options which take sub-races into account. Ashen skin for dwarves, brown skin for orcs, fancy mustaches for humans, lighter skinned night elves. All of this is easily doable without having to go too crazy. If the dev team really want to go crazy and spend a lot of time making this into a fully fledged system to add into over the years, then by all means, I don't think anyone would complain. We've all seen the recent hints at playable Nightborn, Lightforged Draenei, High Mountain Tauren, and the Void Elves. Many of these don't make sense as just customization changes. A High Mountain Tauren starting off his or her adventures in Mulgore is a little bit weird, and the Nightborn suddenly appearing in the Eversong Woods would certainly baffle the local Blood Elves. These options don't make sense unless a new system is created to go along with them. Maybe it's something along the lines of complete the Suramar questlines and you can now create Nightborn characters which start at level 110. Maybe they will also have restricted classes available to them for lore reasons. This could be the same for High Mountain Tauren. Finish up everything in High Mountain and you can now create new High Mountain Tauren at level 110. The Lightforged Draenei and the Void Elves would instead be tied to the Argus questlines. Complete those and you can create the Void Elves or the Lightforged Draenei. Having each of these races or sub-races start at level 110 could be a reward for playing through the content, but also a means to skipping the leveling process which you have probably gone through plenty of times before. This would also prevent anyone from creating these races who don't know the significance of them, and new players wouldn't be able to skip all the way to 110 because they won't have completed the quests already. Either which way they do it, I would love to see sub-races added into the game as either an entire new system as described, or just more customization options during character creation. One part of the game that's been outdated for quite a while now is the auction house. I've seen plenty of games come and go which had different takes on the auction house system, and most of them worked very well. One thing that most of the games have implemented is a buy and sell order system. Essentially, if you want an item for a specific price, instead of heading back to the auction house every day to see if what you want is available for the price you're looking for, you just set a buy order. I want 1000 Imperium for 20 gold each, so I set that order. If anyone wants to sell Imperium for 20 gold or less, my order is filled up with their wares. They'll get the 20 gold per piece, even if they only wanted 15 gold per piece. That's assuming my buy order was the lowest priced anyway. You might be asking why this would be such a huge change. As long as you have that buy order active, anyone who sells any of the goods you're looking for below your asking price will instantly get sold to you. That means people don't have to post hundreds of auctions of just one Imperium or one herb or one of anything else they like to sell in stacks of one because they just love frustrating everybody trying to buy things. They can see what players are willing to pay right now and decide for themselves if they want to offload at that price or set their own in a sell order. But with buy orders, you can then have people sell without having to wait around. They have the option of sell now for whatever price is the highest people are willing to buy for, or wait and place a sell order. With a sell order, you can post your wares with your asking price, so that's basically what we have already, except when you use a buy and sell order system, you can usually buy or sell in partial orders. That means if you put up 200 ore and someone wants 150, but yours is still the cheapest, they can buy 150 of your 200 stack. This would make stack sizes completely irrelevant because the cheapest items are always the first to be purchased. I know a few people who hate this idea because they actually make gold by stacking items neatly. No one wants to go through stacks of 3 and 4 when you need hundreds of an item. So people will actually pay quite a bit extra for the stacks of 200. I'd be willing to give up a little bit of gold for a lot of convenience personally, and the auction house is in dire need of an update. Imagine if you could go to the auction house and buy 1023 of a specific item, and the auction house would deal out exactly 1023 at the cheapest available prices, regardless of how many players you need to buy from to obtain that number and ignoring the stack sizes that people decide to put up. I know the dev team have said recently they would love to update the auction house system, but it's such a core part of the game that updating it would take a lot of work, and it's not something they can do with a minor patch. That means it might be something they can do with an expansion launch, and I certainly hope so. Legion was the first expansion where we could truly choose how to progress through the leveling process thanks to the world scaling technology, and I think it worked wonders for the expansion's early game, so much so that I would love to see the world scaling tech expanded upon and introduced into other areas of the game. It wouldn't have to be the entire world scaled to 1 to 100, but even if this was done in smaller chunks, it could vastly improve the leveling experience. Far too often do you outlevel questing areas before finishing that zone's storylines, even without heirlooms. It's more efficient and more rewarding to just skip over the end of the story and head on over to the next zone because you're not getting enough experience points otherwise. Realizing this as a new player must be very strange indeed, so why not apply the scaling tech? You can go a little longer in some zones without being penalized so you can finish up the story and maybe skip over some other zones entirely. Depending on how far you want to take it, you could also cut out some of the older expansions. If Outland, Northrend, Cataclysm Zones and Pandaria could all be started at the same time, that would certainly shake up a few things. You would have so many more choices of where to take your leveling adventure, and if the experience gains overall were increased through those zones, you wouldn't have to go through every expansion every time you want to level a new character. It would be a shame that new players might be a little confused of what to do when they're presented with so much choice, but maybe either providing a tutorial or focus guide to present them with enough information to make a well-informed choice, or just locking them into a default decision until they have a max level character could alleviate those problems. It's not like any of that old content is relevant to the current story being told at endgame anyways, so allowing them to skip over 1 or 2 chapters might actually be beneficial. I'm excited to see where the dev team could further implement the world scaling tech, and if they don't expand upon it to the old world, I sincerely hope they keep it for the next expansion zones at the very least. Seeing as we're talking about expanding new systems, how about Mythic Plus? If you remember back in Cataclysm, we had an interesting addition of Heroic Deadmites and Heroic Shadowfang Keep. Those 2 dungeons hadn't seen much love for quite a while, but they were brought back as relevant dungeons with the new level cap difficulty. In Mists of Pandaria, we saw the resurgence of Scholomance and Scarlet Monastery dungeons. For Warlords of Draenor, it was Upper Blackrock Spire. It's not unheard of for old dungeons to be given new life by reintroducing them into the mix with a twist or two. Mythic Plus could be that twist, and it could work for so many old dungeons. Granted, a few of them are outdated in both look and mechanics, but can you imagine the sheer variety we could have if every dungeon in the game was eventually added into the Mythic Plus system? We would be travelling all over the world again, delving into dungeons we had almost forgotten about, dungeons that some players won't have even touched before. It's an exciting prospect, though I can see what a huge undertaking it would be. Some of the items from the past expansions don't exactly make too much sense anymore, and some of the Legion dungeons had incredible loot which was only made better by the increasing item level in Mythic Plus. Can you imagine if a random Wrath of the Lich King trinket was just so incredible that everyone had to have it? I guess at that point the dev team would probably just nerf it and that would be that. But having to do that every time someone found some crazy piece of loot would probably be annoying at best. Even if it's extra work, even if it has immediate problems, I would love to see the Mythic Plus system implemented for some older dungeons just to keep things interesting and different. Either way, I'm excited to see the Mythic Plus system in the next expansion because honestly, Blizzard would be downright daft if they were thinking of removing it. Perhaps more than anything, I would love to see a new, glorious, grand hub for the new expansion. Don't get me wrong, Dalaran is great and all, and it's sufficiently different from our time in Wrath that I'll let it slide that we've had this hub for 2 expansions now, but having a new place of power wherever we end up is one of the amazing parts of a new expansion. We haven't really had an awesome hub for quite a while now. If you think back during Warlords, we had a few tents out in Ashran. The shrines in Pandaria were really cool, but ultimately served as a portal hub more than anything else. Cataclysm just had us chilling out in Stormwind and Orgrimmar, and Wrath was actually back to Dalaran. Can you imagine if we got a new Dalaran? Somewhere to explore and find all the little secrets and random bits and bobs the dev team could squirrel away. Running through the streets to find specific vendors or just finding the best place to park and show off your awesome new mounts. I hope we don't end up with Dalaran again, but it has kind of become our main base of operations. I do wonder if something will be done with the Vindicar though, or if the Draenei will create any more spaceships for us to relax on. Having one huge grand ship could actually be really cool. As long as there's room for exploration and new memories, I'll probably be happy. If there's shiny stuff aplenty, I'll be squealing with joy. But that's it for my wants and wishes. What about you? What features would you love to see in the next expansion, regardless of where we end up? Leave all your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.